of my position. Cam is my partner. I'm not his artist. I was the CEO of Diplomats. I made Diplomats with him. I was with him for every bit of his journey. Credit for a bunch of I do in this industry. What say Love Hop? They supposed to say, man, the creator and founder, Jim Jones. Hey, I made that name Love of Hip Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name. I didn't know that.
Myself. Gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. No, me, Jim Jones. No Diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard them. You wanna go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard.
This is Jim Jones, a man with more titles than a mixtape track list. Depending on which interview you tune into, he's the genius behind Love and Hip Hop, the rapper with the hardest catalog, and the one who taught everyone else how to move in this game. He paints himself as the boss, the brain, and the brawn all in one. But those who really came up with him?
Didn't have viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. They got 100 on me now. I got like 40, 50 on me.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's right. I'm gonna get this right now. Right now. Any one of you right now. And it ain't a money thing, but this is here. You heard? If you want to get busy, is the money on the line? Any one of y'all.
They say the story he's selling doesn't quite line up with the truth. People from Jim's own circle have been calling him out, saying he's been running with the same made-up stories for almost 2 decades. Let's break it down. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin been pushing this tale forever, that Love and Hip Hop was Jim's brainchild, his personal creation, his big idea that changed TV forever. According to them, the whole show was supposed to shine a spotlight on Jim and Chrissy's love life. Jim even said straight up that he came up with the entire concept himself, but not everyone's buying that version of events. Didn't know that, huh? Well, if you dig past Jim's version and check the real industry receipts, the truth hits different.
I never give my credit for a bunch of I do in this industry. What say Love Hop? They supposed to say, man, the creator and founder, Jim Jones. Hey, I made that name Love of Hip Hop. That's my name. They didn't make that name. I didn't know that.
Mona Scott Young is the actual creator and executive producer of Love and Hip Hop, not Jim. Her name's all over the paperwork, the trade mags, the credits, everywhere that matters. Jim and Chrissy? They were just cast members in the mix. Sure, maybe he tossed out an idea or two, but fans are quick to remind him there's a huge gap between throwing out a suggestion and actually creating one of the biggest reality TV franchises of the 2010s. Claiming you made Love and Hip Hop when your name's nowhere in the credits? That's not confidence. That's straight up delusion. And it doesn't stop there. Jim's also been riding hard on this Harlem identity. But that whole Harlem to the bone story starts cracking the minute Cameron steps in. Their bond's been rocky for years. One minute they're cool, next minute it's war again. Makeup, fallout, reunion, then another explosion. It's been a roller coaster, and the fans have seen every twist. One of the biggest sparks that lit up their beef came when Jim started claiming he made Dipset.
Our guardian angel and designer. What the f is you talking about, man? You are from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you, man. I did not grow.
Cam wasn't having that for a second. That's when Cameron started peeling back the curtain on Jim's past. And what he exposed poked some serious holes in that Harlem born and raised story Jim keeps pushing. Cam straight up said Jim wasn't really from Harlem like that. He was from the Bronx. The only Harlem tie he had was through his grandmother who lived there. So, yeah, he'd pop up sometimes. But that was it. Cam made it clear. They didn't grow up together, period. All those tales Jim tells about coming up with Cam in the Harlem streets, Cam said that's all cap. He even broke down how Jim got close to the crew in the first place, back when Cam, Mace, Big L, Bloodshed, and Herb McGruff were already buzzing heavy in the streets. Everybody knew Cam and his crew were right on the edge of a record deal. Their freestyles had the whole city buzzing. Jim heard those verses and wanted in on the movement. After his grandmother passed, he started opening up his crib to them, offering his spot as the new hangout. At first, it caught Cam and the crew off guard. They didn't really need a place to chill, but Jim kept showing love, saying, "Yo, pull up anytime." So eventually, they started sliding through every now and then. Cam even admitted they'd sometimes use Jim's spot just to relax, bring a few girls around, or just vibe out since the place was always open and free.
You heard our freestyles, and you came up to me one day when I was chilling in front of the house. You said, and this word to my dead mother, yo, man, I heard the freestyles. Y'all killing shit. Yo, you know my grandmother died. If y'all want to come by and just hang out, y'all, all right, Joe Mo, thanks. It didn't really make sense at the time because we like, yo, man, where's Joe Mo inviting us to his house for? Even though he cool. But it didn't make sense to be going to Joe Mo.
Cam made one thing crystal clear. He never needed Jim's spot like that. To him, Jim wasn't really part of their inner circle. He was more like a fan on the sidelines, desperate to get in. Cam painted the picture plain. Jim wasn't moving with them. He was just hanging around hoping to be noticed. And if that wasn't wild enough, Cam reminded everyone that it was actually Mace who taught Jim how to rap. Jim didn't come up spitting bars with them. He joined the wave after it was already in motion. He wasn't part of Harlem's true rap corps. He just slid in once the doors cracked open. To make it worse, Cam said Jim even tried to flex his money on him once. But the move backfired bad, leaving Jim embarrassed all over again. Jim Jones just dropped another wild one, claiming he's actually a better rapper than Nas. Yeah, you heard that right. He went on record saying he could rap circles around anybody from his era and even dared hip-hop legends to meet him in the booth. Bold move, right? Now, hip-hop's built on competition, so calling people out ain't new, but this one hit different. The problem here is about respect and reality. We're not talking about just any rapper. This is Nas. The same Nas who snagged a Grammy in 2021 was honored at the 2024 Grandmaster Awards and is still praised as one of the greatest lyricists to ever bless a mic.
On your couch, you was a fan. You begged us. You are a fan. A fan. We didn't grow up with you. I don't see you around none of this. You're not from none of that. You ever see somebody from Harlem try to act like they from Harlem so bad that you got to keep saying, I'm from Harlem? Who's from Harlem know who's from Harlem. You don't have to keep saying you from Harlem.
That's not just rap royalty. That's legacy. The backlash hit fast. Fans and rappers jumped on him immediately. Soon after, Jim tried to clean it up, walking back his words and saying he wasn't just talking about lyrical skill, but about being a marketing genius. So now he's switching lanes. 1 minute it's about bars, the next it's about branding. People started asking, is he really calling out legends for a rap battle or just talking wild to keep his name trending? But Jim didn't stop there. He doubled down, claiming he had more Billboard entries than Nas. That flex didn't last long though. Once folks started fact-checking, the truth came out quick. Jim's got 9 total entries on the Billboard 200, with only 3 albums cracking the top 10, and not one of them ever hit #1. Meanwhile, Nas is out here sitting on 27 Billboard 200 entries, 16 top 10 albums, and 6 #1s. The numbers don't lie, and that gap is huge. To make it worse, folks took Jim's bold claims straight to the streets. In Harlem, people were asked one simple question: who's the better rapper, Nas or Jim Jones? The results? Straight up embarrassing. Every single person picked Nas, no hesitation. Some didn't just pick him, they laughed at the idea that Jim could even be compared. It was that bad. Then Math Hoffa ran the same test on his platform. And guess what? Same story. Every response came back for Nas again, making it another rough moment for Jim's already shaky credibility. Yeah, I don't know what kind of question is that? Nas, okay?
What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life. I got 100 on me now. I got like 40, 50 on me.
Yeah, that's strong.
It's right. You can come get this right now. Right now. Anyone you right now. And it ain't a money thing, but this is here. You heard? If you want to get busy, is the money on the line?
One Harlem resident laughed, saying Jim needed to switch that up, big dog. I ain't gonna lie to you. The streets made it clear. There was no debate. And then came the whole Jay-Z situation. For years, Jim tried to act like everything between him and Hov was smooth. Around 2016, he was all smiles publicly, saying there was no bad blood and that he and Roc Nation were good. But later interviews told a different story. Jim admitted he actually felt hurt, left out of Rock Nation opportunities and big business plays. He basically went from fronting like Jay was his homie to confessing he felt snubbed, overlooked, and shut out of the inner circle. Even Jay-Z himself threw some shade his way. The switch-up was so obvious that hip-hop blogs and fans started clowning Jim for all the flip-flopping. To make it worse, every time Jim retold the story, the details changed. Like even he couldn't keep track of what really happened. Then there's the whole gang persona Jim's been pushing for years. He's always painted himself as a high-ranking blood, calling himself a general, saying he gave orders, moved with power, and sat at the top of the set. But when the 6ix9ine federal case hit and those 9 Trey wiretaps leaked to the public, the story got real messy. Suddenly, fans started asking questions Jim couldn't easily dodge. Jim's name straight up popped up on those wiretaps, his voice clear as day, talking real gang business. But here's the wild part. When the indictment started flying and everyone else got snatched up, Jim's name was nowhere on the paperwork. No charges, no arrest, nothing. That silence had people scratching their heads. Legal experts, hip-hop commentators, and even defense attorneys started questioning it. If Jim was really the general he claimed to be, the one calling shots, how did everyone else go down but not him?
Jim Jones, myself. Gold records, platinum records, gold albums, platinum albums. No, me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I gotta show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard, and if you wanna go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up.
If the feds had enough evidence to lock up 9 Trey leaders for decades, why did Jim walk away untouched? The math wasn't mathing. A lot of folks started whispering that there had to be a deeper reason why he wasn't sitting in a cell right now, and whatever that reason was, it didn't fit the tough image he'd been selling. And it wasn't just in New York. Jim tried to flex that gang status everywhere he went. Jim even claimed he had full acceptance in the LA gang scene, saying he was good in every hood. But Wack 100, who's never afraid to call people out, shut that story down fast. According to Wack, Jim didn't earn that respect. He paid for it. He allegedly tried to hand Wack cash just to get a pass in Compton so he could move around without issues. Right after that, Jim jumped on Instagram posting videos of himself chilling in Compton parks, acting like he was truly stamped out there. But to people who knew the real story, those clips looked fake, more like stage performances than genuine street love. Even Faizon Love jumped in, clowning Jim and saying the closest he'd ever been to a real blood set was watching the movie Colors. That line had the internet laughing for days, and Jim's gang boss image started looking shakier than ever. And then there's Jim's so-called athlete era, which honestly might be his funniest claim yet. Jim loves posting those gym clips, especially the ones of him shadowboxing like he's training for a title fight.
Nas.
Nas or Jim Jones? Nas.
Nas or Jim Jones? Nas.
All right. Nas or Jim Jones?
Is that a serious question?
Yes, it is.
It's not, bro. Jim Jones.
The message is clear. He wants folks to see him as some kind of fighter. But the internet? Oh, they had other plans. Instead of being impressed, Twitter lit him up. His form, his footwork, those soft-looking punches, it all became instant meme material. Reaction videos started flooding the timeline, with people breaking down his technique, cracking jokes about his noodle arms and skinny legs. Even other rappers jumped in to mock his boxing skills. What Jim meant as a flex turned into yet another running joke with his name attached to it. And beyond all the fake flexes and over-the-top claims, Jim's career has been packed with feuds. And somehow, they always seem to backfire on him. Jim's beefs ain't legendary rap battles, they're straight-up embarrassing chapters he probably wishes people would erase. Take his situation with Raw Diggs, for example. This wasn't some internet tough guy. Raw was the real deal. A street name with a reputation that sounded like it came out of a crime doc. We're talking drugs, armed robberies, and a long list of bodies rumored to be tied to his name. His record was so serious that when the feds finally caught him, they didn't play around. They handed him 3 life sentences, plus an extra 105 years just to make sure he'd never breathe free air again. So, when Jim decided to cross paths with someone like Raw Diggs, It was a reckless move.
Nas or Jim Jones?
Nas.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of Nas. I don't know what kind of question that is. Yeah, Nas.
Okay, all right, listen, hey.
And you gotta switch something up, big dog. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Nas, come on. This is Nas, my.
Nas. What? Save me.
At that time, Raw was trying to pivot into music, dropping tracks, collaborating with artists like Shooter 93, and slowly building a buzz in the hip-hop streets. One day, Raw Diggs ended up in the same studio where Jim was recording, and that's where the clash kicked off. Jim's always had one rule about his studio sessions: no street talk in the booth. He keeps his music and the street world separate, and he expects everyone else to do the same. But that day, things went left fast. Raw started talking heavy, bringing up old blood politics, gang history, and street situations like it was casual conversation. Most people in the room brushed it off as regular tough talk, but Jim wasn't with it. Witnesses say Jim suddenly snapped, barking at Raw, "Man, get the F out of here with that blood-ish." The room got tense real quick, and Raw was caught off guard, not expecting Jim to press him like that. This was Raw Diggs, a man knee-deep in the streets, someone people actually feared. He couldn't believe Jim had the nerve to talk to him like that. So he checked him right there, asking if Jim really meant what he said. And Jim doubled down. He repeated himself loud and clear, basically dismissing Raw in front of the whole room. That's when things exploded.
Certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's not like no one's top 10 list. Maybe not even his family. He has no hardware on his wall. No classic album. So from a creative standpoint and the economic standpoint, he doesn't even register. So why do I have to answer that question?
Words started flying back and forth, and the tension went through the roof. People in the studio said you could feel the energy shift. It got ice cold, like everyone knew this could jump from words to violence in seconds. Raw was furious, ready to move, and the whole place froze. Luckily, a few cooler heads stepped in before things got deadly. Some of the guys in the studio jumped in quick, managing to calm things down before it turned physical. But Raw Diggs wasn't the type to just swallow his pride and walk away. On his way out, his anger did the talking. He smashed one of the studio's glass doors and stormed off in fury. You'd think that'd be the end of it, right? Not even close. Later that same night, Jim had a show booked at SO's Rendezvous, a popular club spot in the city. At first, everything seemed chill. The crowd was hyped, the music was bumping, and Jim was doing his thing on stage. Then, out of nowhere, Raw Diggs showed up, and he didn't come solo. He rolled in deep with a few of his guys, making his presence felt the second he walked in.
I don't know why people think they city make them. Like, you don't know how much of a clown you look like in 2025 running back for a Compton stamp. He said, I'm going to go over here and pay these to go to the park. I'm not from Compton. I'm like, bro, I'm not from Compton. I don't give a what park you go to in Compton.
The DJ even grabbed the mic, shouting Raw Diggs in the building, like a real street king had just arrived. That's when the whole vibe flipped in an instant. Witnesses said Jim's face said everything. One second he was chill, performing with confidence, and the next, he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Whatever energy he had vanished right there on stage. He didn't stick around to see what Raw was planning. He dipped fast, leaving the club before things could go left. Luckily for Jim, nothing popped off right then and there. But behind the scenes, it was way more serious than it looked. Word is, one of Raw's guys was literally just waiting for a signal. One nod from Raw, and it would have gone from tension to tragedy in seconds. If Raw had given that green light, that night could have ended very differently for Jim Jones. But surprisingly, Raw didn't give the order. He let Jim walk away untouched. And for someone like Raw Diggs, that was shocking. This was a man feared for never letting disrespect slide, the kind who always answered with violence. So the question everybody had was, why did he spare Jim?
He ain't never been on no blood set. Closest thing he been to a blood set is Colors. He ain't been on Pyro Street, Colors. He ain't been to Emerald Hills, Bunny Boys. He ain't been to Lincoln Park. He ain't been to none of them places put in.
People who knew the story started sharing their own wild theories. Some say, after that studio incident, Jim finally realized who he was really dealing with. Maybe someone pulled him aside and broke down Raw Diggs' real street resume. Because if Jim didn't know before, he definitely learned after. And then came the Max B situation. Out of all the conflicts Jim Jones has had, this one might be the ugliest and most personal of them all. What makes it sting even more is that these two weren't enemies from the jump. They were actually close. Max wasn't just another rapper hanging around Jim's circle. He was his ghostwriter, his right-hand man in the studio, and part of Jim's Bird Gang crew. For a while, they moved like family, side by side, building hits and chasing the same dream. But when things went bad, they really went bad. The fallout started after Max got slammed with serious charges, a murder case that ended up landing him a long prison sentence. From Max's point of view, Jim completely abandoned him when the pressure hit. He felt like Jim turned his back on him at his lowest point, and that's when the loyalty snapped.
Jimmy was not a rapper then.
Right.
He was your man, like on the side, like in the side, just he was not a rapper at all.
Right.
So when balling took place, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, he having a moment. And I just looked and I knew I just took the shot, Murder, to see, because I wasn't sure he was gonna go for it. But I was like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. Then you gotta watch and see how he responds. And then when you see, he like, oh.
What once was a tight partnership turned into one of the most bitter and public feuds in New York rap history. Max didn't just keep it on wax. He went straight for Jim's neck. He dropped a mixtape with a cover showing tombstones, and one of them read, "Here lies Millie Jim Jones." That alone had people talking. But then he doubled down with the infamous diss record, "She Touched It in Miami," where he claimed he'd been with Jim's longtime partner, Chrissy Lampkin. That track set the streets on fire, because it wasn't just lyrical shots anymore, it got personal. From there, things started getting physical. According to Max, one night he spotted Jim in the streets, and that's when it went left. He said Jim tried to box his car in, like he was setting him up for a confrontation. But Max wasn't about to get trapped. He claimed he rammed Jim's Bentley just to break free, and in the chaos, punched Jim right in the face. The whole thing turned from rap beef to real street tension in seconds. Even while sitting behind bars for years, Max B never let the grudge completely eat him alive. Over time, he hinted that he was open to letting it go, saying he'd be down to squash the beef if the chance ever came around. But Jim's approach, totally different. He spent years brushing the whole situation off, acting like it never even mattered. In interviews, he'll sometimes pretend not to remember Max's name, treating him like just a footnote in his career instead of the man who helped shape it. But the truth eventually surfaced. In a recent interview, Jim finally admitted he did Max dirty. That revelation shocked fans who had been debating the story for years. And then there's 50 Cent, the ultimate instigator in hip-hop beef. His name's attached to almost every rap feud imaginable, and his history with Jim Jones goes way back to 2007.
I just seen the Breakfast Club. Jimmy popping all that bullshit. I be seeing Jimmy talking about, we Gucci boo boo. He in the Gucci store. Talking about, we Gucci boo boo. Black King they was going you up. Jimmy, they was like, Marita Moneda. Coca-Cola. Pedro.
It be money in case they wanted to know. Tell them we Gucci. we Gucci.
At the time, Dipset was already falling apart. Cameron and Jim were beefing. The crew wasn't solid, and 50 saw an opening. Being the master troll he is, he invited Jim to perform at one of his shows right in the middle of the drama. And it wasn't out of kindness. Years later, 50 Cent admitted the whole thing was a strategic move. He wanted to stir the pot, mess with Dipset's cracks, and laugh at the fact that Jim had finally caught a hit record. Pure 50-style trolling. Jim tried to clap back later in an interview with Justin LeBoy, calling out both 50 and Cam, trying to flip the narrative his way, saying, "There's only space on there for baby girl, man," trying to play it cool and dismissive. But of course, 50 wasn't letting it slide that easy. In true 50 Cent fashion, he cranked the heat all the way up and took it beyond music. When 6ix9ine's federal trial was going down, 50 pulled up the court transcripts where Jim's name appeared as individual one. He didn't even have to say much. He just implied Jim might have been playing both sides, maybe even cooperating. That single move planted serious doubt about Jim's street credibility and had people talking all over again. That move had people looking at Jim sideways, because in this culture, the last thing you ever want tied to your name is the word informant, and 50 kept clowning him, nonstop. Later on, when someone brought up the idea of a versus battle between Jim and 50, Jim shut it down quick. His response was cold and direct. I don't want to do nothing with that sucker. The tension was still real. But then came the true life situation, and that one wasn't rap games or internet beef. This one got real. It was physical, dangerous, and easily one of the darkest chapters in Jim's career. What's wild is that at first, Jim and True Life weren't even enemies. They were actually cool. True Life, along with JoJo Capone, was providing real protection for Jim and Dipset when things got hot in New York. They were out there handling serious situations where violence could have popped off any second. But over time, True Life and JoJo started to feel disrespected, like they were risking their lives for people who weren't breaking bread the right way. In their eyes, Jim wasn't showing love or respect for the danger they took on for him. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Eventually, all that built-up tension exploded. True Life ended up snatching Jim's Bird Gang chain, and instead of keeping it quiet, he went full-on disrespectful with it. He started flaunting the chain in interviews, showing it off like a trophy. Straight up humiliating Jim in public. In the street world, that kind of move cuts deep. It's never just about jewelry. It's about pride, power, and respect. Seeing True Life parade around with his chain was a major blow to Jim's image, especially when his credibility was already being questioned. Trying to get ahead of the story, Jim went on Hot 97 to tell his side, but that only made things worse. True Life felt even more disrespected by how Jim talked about it, and the beef didn't cool down. It intensified. That beef ran deep, bad blood that could have easily turned into something catastrophic. The only thing that cooled it down was True Life getting locked up on an unrelated case. Prison hit the pause button on the situation, but the tension never really disappeared. Even now, Jim barely speaks on it, probably because it's one of those L's that time just can't wash away. And when you zoom out and look at Jim's whole career, the pattern's hard to ignore. He's taken hit after hit, from public fallouts to exposed lies and nonstop drama swirling around his name. Instead of being celebrated as a Harlem legend, a lot of folks now see him as a walking punchline, the guy who can't seem to escape the chaos that follows him everywhere. But what do you think? Is Jim Jones unfairly judged, or is he the one writing his own downfall? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives like this one.